And we're going to have the opening invocation and pledge of allegiance. Keith, do you mind doing the invocation and then we'll follow up with the pledge? Okay.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to gather today, serve our community. We recognize the responsibility placed before us and ask for your guidance as we carry it out. Grant us the wisdom in our decisions, clarity in our discussions, and fairness in our actions. Help us to act with integrity, to listen with respect, and work together in a spirit of cooperation. Keep us focused on what's right for the residents we serve. Give us patience where challenges arise, good judgment where choices must be made, and the discipline to follow through on our commitments. We ask for your protection over this community, its families, its infrastructure, and the work being done to support it. Guide us to lead us well, serve honestly, and leave things better than we found them. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, everyone. Some comments from the public? Okay. Receive president and director comments.
Anyone have anything?
I had a question. Next meeting in May is when we get sworn in.
We get re-sworn, yeah.
Right. Can I have my kids and be in the audience?
Yeah.
If they want to see it. Okay, cool.
That's awesome.
Any other comments or questions? No, cool.
No, for me.
5, consider an act on request for adjustments to or relief from special charges imposed by the district. Thank you. Consent agenda. Anything we'd like to remove from the consent agenda before we approve it?
Yeah, I was absent on the last meeting and it shows my attendance. That needs to be changed.
On which
Yeah.
item?
This is on the reviewing the minutes.
We'll adjust that, noted.
Okay. Brian, can we adjust that and then we approve 6 through 11, or do we need to table that and do 7 to 11 and then redo
Yeah, we'll
6?
pull it out and then take action on the minutes separately as revised.
Okay, all right, so we'll do, anything else anyone would like to revise or discuss? All right, can I get a approval on the consent agenda items 7 through 11, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items 7 through 11.
I see.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, thank you. And number 6, I'm sorry, it's been forever since we've had one of these.
A motion to approve the minutes as revised.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes on number 6 as revised?
I make a motion to approve the minutes on the consent agenda as advised,
Revised.
revised. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you so much. All right, regular meeting number 12, receive the regular monthly SGRA Woodlands Division report.
Good afternoon. Our report begins on page 20 in your packet. You had the GRP report, the Woodlands Monthly Operations Report, and the 6-month project update in there. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing to highlight, but we do have a couple items on the next couple of topics. But I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have.
Anyone any questions?
On this part. Nope.
The, on page 28, the elevated storage tank inspection for 39, that's the one, that's next to the plant, the tower.
Yes, sir.
Cool. How do you do that? You like have someone like crawl inside, or is it like an external thing? I'm just curious.
Well, so they actually send a drone. Sometimes they'll send somebody to they send a drone to look at the outside, but they also send somebody up to call them to look on the paint on the outside at the top of it, but they also do put somebody inside the tank itself. That's why we drain the tanks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We drain and they get in there and they do their little test, to see how, what the thickness of the coating is, and then any other leaks, issues and problems, and report it back to us.
So it's a tall ladder.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Inside.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
What's the inspection frequency?
So we inspect them officially per TCQ once per year. This inspection was a special inspection because this is actually the condition assessment that would actually determine when the tanks need to be rehabbed. So this is done about every 10 years. Last one was in 2015.
It's more in depth, not.
Yeah.
And they're looking at corrosion or any defects or.
They are checking the mill thickness of the paint, corrosion, stuff like that. So
How many gallons does that tank hold roughly?
that's a good question. I want to say that's about 750,000 gallons.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Any additional questions or comments on 12? All right. Consider an act on supplemental agreement with SGRA for issuance of bonds in connection with the Tier 1 water line renewal project, including discussion on timing of the Tier 1 water line renewal projects.
Afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Have a couple of things to talk to you about. The first item is on page 65. There've been a number of questions last month, whether the trustee meetings or whether it was the regular MUD meetings, about schedule for these Tier 1 water line projects. And so this memo kind of gives you an idea of the process and the schedule that we go through on the Tier 1 projects. And so one of the questions that was asked was, well, when did you want to try and get the supplemental agreement approved? And the original intent was March. We got it to Brian a little bit late, so we missed the March deadline, internal March deadline. Then we had a couple of directors mention we prefer to kind of deal with this after the election, after the new directors are seated. Fully understand, and so that's why this schedule is based on a June or July approval of the supplemental agreement. Once all the MUDs approve or not, whatever gets approved would go to our board for their approval. Then we would work with Adams Firm to deal with the official statement that's published to advertise for the bonds. Board signs off on that. Bonds sale occurs in September. Bond closing and funding becomes available probably late October. We would once funds are in the bank, we would advertise for a request for qualifications for engineering for the Woodlands Parkway project. Engineering only. Town center easement acquisition obviously can't occur because that's about $3.5 million until funds are in the bank. So we would start that easement acquisition in November of 26. Yes, sir.
So, we're looking at potential bond or what bond rates may be in the fall, September is. That's nice. All right. So maybe a few cuts between now and then. Awesome. Okay.
Well, and muni bonds are
In the fours.
in the fours.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll have a new Fed chair by then. So, awesome.
So we
Sounds
might
great.
have better numbers.
Yeah.
Um,
Love to save money for the people in the community. Thank you.
Town center engineering or easement acquisition takes about 6 to 9 months, depending on whether we're friendly acquisition or condemnation. Engineering design of town center would finish in December of 26. New rates based on the bond sale would occur probably in January of 27. We would do the engineering for Woodlands Parkway, start that in February 27. That would be when we would sign the contract with the design firm. And they'd start preliminary engineering. That takes about a year. We would move forward with once all easements are in, all the plans are signed, all the permits issued. We would move forward with the construction of the town center water line. That would start November of 27, and that'll run about 18 months. And then shortly after that, we would, or during that process, we would also be doing the final engineering on Woodlands Parkway. And then that would take about another year. We have to get easements. So construction probably wouldn't start until late 2029. And that would also take about 18 months, 18, 20 months to construct. So that gives you an idea of the timeline. So you have also 2 emails from me at your place. Eric has the electronic copy, so that'll probably be placed on the Google Drive for you all to have electronically, and then you can shred this or put it at the bottom of the birdcage or whatever. So let's start with the April 14 email. Several of the directors had asked, how cost estimates were derived.
Can you repeat that? How what was derived?
How cost estimates were different from the HDR report versus that spreadsheet that we handed out back in March, the 11 by 17. And so this, and I'm not going to go through it detail by detail. I'm going to ask that you all take this and read it. And then if you have questions, shoot those to Eric and then he'll get them to us. But this kind of walks you through what we were thinking because the HDR estimates were based in 2025 numbers. And you can see from this schedule that it's going to be several years past 2029 before they actually go to construction. So this thing kind of walks you through why the Woodlands Parkway number is slightly different than what HDR had in their report. And it adds in, inflation because there's a certain amount of inflation every year. One of the things that is constantly changing on us, and you see it at the gas pump today, fuel prices. That impacts the contractor considerably. Labor costs, all the ICE stuff is creating a little bit of a shortage in workforce on the construction side. So
When did we start looking at the town center project? Is that like 23 or
No.
24?
2021, it was already in design.
It was in design, so it was like 2019.
So it's been in play for over 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, that was before my first term.
Mhm.
And then we won't start until the end of my second term. That's a lot of talk.
Yeah.
And very little action.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the truth. So I mean, I just want to conceptualize that, right? We talk a lot, but ultimately it's good to think about the numbers, but all the additional thinking and planning has caused the cost to
Increase.
I mean, I would say I'll double or, considerably higher
Sure.
than making a strong decision in the beginning. That's good to think and analyze, but you can't overanalyze.
Well, a typical capital project, probably the earliest, it could be start to finish is 5 years.
Okay. All
But
right.
I've seen them go 8 to 10. Chris has a couple that are probably 10 to 15. And, schedules get upset a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you'll take a look at this and pass any questions to Eric. The second email dated April 13th. I'm not doing them in chronological order, obviously.
That's okay, sir.
Some of the conversations I've had with Eric and also with some of the MUD directors have kind of asked the question of how does SRA plan a project from concept to completion? And so the purpose of this email is to kind of walk you through what we do during concept phase, what we do during preliminary engineering phase, what we're doing during final design phase, and during construction. The one thing I realized today, talking to Eric, is I don't put estimated timelines on how long each phase would take. So I'm going to go back and add that to this. And then another thing I'm probably going to add to this is when should the MUD start thinking about what they do with the rates and when money would need to start flowing for this project, for a project to continue. And this applies to any project that's in our R&R project list. or any capital projects like the tier 1, tier 2 water lines, the wastewater plant improvements, any other, an elevated storage tank. When it starts getting over a couple of $1 million, and you're going to have several of those going at any given time, remember, only $6 million comes over to our R&R fund annually. So also, if you'll take a look at this, pass any questions to Eric, and we'll be happy to answer those. Anything come to mind to start with?
Well, no, I think you just nailed it. I think that just simplifying us when we think about these, this is, first of all, thank you for the transparency. This is very helpful to understand the thought process, the due diligence. But then also having those kind of target, again, I know it's kind of, where that inflection points are, where it comes to say, okay, this is about the time we're going to come and say, hey, we need to start paying some things or do some things. So.
And one other thing before I go sit down, we've talked, a lot of conversation has occurred over how cost estimates are derived. At concept, we have in the conceptual phase, we get a cost estimate from the consultant. And that's got a 30% contingency in it. In preliminary design, we get an updated cost estimate. We're still at 30% because no plans have been drawn.
Okay.
Final design, that contingency gets to be about 10 or 15% because at the very end, you have technical specifications, you have very detailed drawings, you have details of how the contractor is supposed to build stuff. But during final design, we're seeing from the consultant a 30% complete milestone. We have a 60% complete milestone and a 90% complete milestone. And each one of those milestones, he's updating that cost estimate, tweaking it a little bit because he's got better information the further along he goes. So we get numbers. We don't always share them with you each time, but our project plan that you see annually, those numbers are updated on an annual basis. So you can always relate that back.
Okay.
And the email on the waterline cost estimate, the attempt is to relate it from the HDR numbers to our new numbers, but also back to the project plan so you can see where to look to find where those numbers would go. And then in May, we will be bringing the project plan to you all for your education. Any questions? Chris is back up. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm up when the next item comes up. You kind of left it there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Pregnant pause there, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
13, there's not anything we need to act on. 14, discuss and act on water reclamation facility number 1 condition assessment study.
All right, that would be me. So I'm going to be speaking from this 1-page memo that's up here. If you did not get a copy, let me know. I'll pass it around. There you go. All right, guys.
Which one is it? The one with, okay, the logo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you were at the trustees meeting or you heard about the trustees meeting, I watched it, that is, the River Authority did have a recommendation related to the path forward on wastewater plant 1. After that conversation, we discussed internally a pivot point, if you will. So what you have in front of you, what I'm going to talk about here is the pivot and a change in recommendation on moving forward with wastewater plant 1. And so what we're looking to do with this is kind of, as Sean said earlier, a little bit less talk and maybe some more action going forward. So what we're recommending at the bottom, item number 1, is to stop the analysis of the 4 options for plant 1. The 4 options were repair in place, replace in place, new MBR facility, new conventional facility. So we're recommending to stop that study and then move forward with a repair in place option only. The funding that was already set aside, already budgeted for that comparative analysis, will be used in items 2A and 2B. The first item is to go and right size the facility. So take a look at it and say, overall, what does the facility need to be? Does it need to be 7.8 like it is today? Does it need to be 7, 6.5, whatever it may be? And so to do that, we'll have to use the data that Woodlands Water created over the last few months. Get with TCEQ, get with our consultant in TCEQ and say, okay, if we're going to do anything to this plant, what size does it need to be? That way you don't overbuild anything, you don't underbuild anything, you just get it where you need it to be. The second item, 2B, is to get with a consultant to use the condition assessment that was developed about a year ago to determine a tiered repaired strategy. So if you go back to the HDR study, how they had tier 1 lines, tier 2 lines, tier 3 lines, same general approach. We'll come up and say in the first 5 to 10 years, these are things you need to work on. Next, tier 2, tier 3, whatever it may be. We'll also have them break it out to say these are items that are long life, longer than the bond, 25, 30, 50-year structures. You should probably bond fund those. Here's blowers or valves that are a couple $100,000 and has 10-year lifespan. You don't bond fund it. So what we're looking for is at the May trustees meeting for the trustees to take action on a path forward. This is our recommendation, but of course the trustees can offer different ones. Y'all can do whatever you choose, but this is our recommendation, is to basically start getting to the point where we can put shovels in the ground, repair and place option, right size the facility, and come up with a tiered approach that sets forward essentially the next 20, 30 years of plan and repairs.
Questions from anyone?
Just for the sake of understanding the differences too. So the SFDUE was originally based on what, and now after you did your study, what is the new the SD or SFDUE number? That's was it 7.9 or what was we had a number that we were using for capacity. What was the number before?
217,
It's what?
217 gallons per day per ESFC.
Yeah, and what is it? And after the study?
Well, that's what he's suggesting.
That's the right
would need
size.
to be right sized.
Okay. I
So
thought,
F and I was proposing 200. TCQ will require you to look at your last 5 years of flow, and that helps us determine what that number should be. And at that time, that was 2021 or 20.
Yeah.
They were looking at the last 5 years prior to that. You have 2015, 2016, 2017, which I mentioned last month was 3 monster rain years, which likely led to some of those numbers. You look at the last 5 years now that have those in it. Now you can't ignore those, obviously. TCQ may want to look at further beyond 5 years, but that's something that at least TCQ will help with in this process to identify, because you can look at SFDUEs, which is just the forecast of what's to be developed or what is currently developed. But you then have to translate for overall volume of sewage, how much is coming from each one of those types of land uses, right? And so typically TCEQ will require you to design at a certain level, even though your actuals may be less than that. You would never design to that minimum number. You see what I'm saying? Because of low flow toilets and other features that have changed over the years, even in the last 30, 40 years, that number used to be in the 300s. And that was standard. You couldn't do anything about it because that's what the world was. But over the last 20 years with low flow fixtures and plumbing code changes and things like that, homes are built with lower flow, shower heads, toilets, etc., which all that does is push less water to the plant volumetrically. But now keep in mind that same amount of, let's just say, sewage is going in a smaller amount of water. So it's concentrated. So as a design engineer for wastewater treatment, they have to take that into consideration. It's not as simple as just designing it for the volume that's coming, but you also have to treat the stringency or the consistency of the waste coming in.
So it's more potent.
For sure. Which I mean, and that affects how you design each process unit of the plant as it goes through the plant.
Right. I mean, that's the stuff we discussed in, 2022 or 23 at the number 1 facility, all those meetings. So
Yeah.
It's interesting that we're kind of coming back to that. I'm curious what kind of sparked or proposed us to go from 4 to 1. What was that trigger that happened?
I had a similar question. It feels like I'm looking at the time and I'm seeing we're spending time and we're spending money. And we went from 1 or 2 options to 4. And so this seems like a compromise of sorts, or a acknowledgement that we could perseverate ourselves into oblivion and can keep spending money, and not necessarily have, I'm not dismissing the value of analysis. I'm just saying incremental additional value adds when you think about the analysis. So it feels like you guys have kind of said, you know, we need to get to getting, and we're willing to compromise and come up with the best kind of combination of not completely new versus, you know, repair in place.
Agree entirely. And so we're about 5 years, just over 5 years into this, just about 3 million, well, actually just over $3 million. So a lot of money in studies, a lot of time, cost escalations over time. If we go through this study and finish the 4 comparative analysis, I'm not going to say there's going to be another study, but I do know there's going to be additional conversation, 6 months, year, whatever it may be. Meanwhile, we have assets that needed to be replaced back in 2020 that are now 5, 6 years older, we still haven't touched. And so every year that goes on gets closer to essentially a critical infrastructure failure, with a cash call saying, I can't wait, I got to fix this. The other part of it is we've been talking about the repair in place option, this memo essentially for the last 6-9 months internally at the River Authority. When we first started this process in 2020 on our side, a new plant was around 110 million max. And comparison, City of Conroe built their wastewater plant in 2019, 2020 for about $50-60 million, right? 6 MGD. That's where we were economically. Fast forward to today, that same plant's going to be $200-300 million. And so the economics of it over time has just not made any sense to go with a brand new plant.
So spending $3 million in a study has cost us $200 million potentially. Well,
Yeah. But also at the
We're
same,
not spending 200 million.
you're not spending 200 million,
Yeah.
but when we started looking at it in 2020, as you know, after COVID, prices went up. We were already behind the
At
gun
least 5.
at that point. Yeah. But of
Cool.
course, we didn't know at that time.
all right. So do we need to give our trustee approval to make a decision?
For next month.
Yes.
That's the ask.
Direction. It doesn't have to be a formal vote, but you do need to give.
What's your opinion, Mr. Lincoln? You're the one
It's
that,
the other way around.
No, we all have an opinion, but yeah, you're the
I mean,
one, you're the
I'm-
voice.
I'm-
of-
5 votes on this, but
I mean, I'm curious. I mean, you're the one that's gonna be raising your hand. I mean, we will back you and tell you our thoughts, but
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately. it's-
Oh, I'm not gonna be bashful about giving my opinion anyway, but yeah. So,
Go ahead, because, I mean, my opinion is that this has got to,
I think with you, the time has come for us to put a bow on, let's just say, the due diligence that's been undertaken. And I commend everyone's efforts in being good stewards of the money and making sure we're not spendthrifty and I mean, you know, being pound foolish in that regard. But I think, you know, when I look at this and I'm saying that we don't have to spend another dime to kind of redirect this, you know, repurpose the remaining funds to go complete these 2A, 2B items here to then go kind of basically say, this is going to be the actual plan that we're going to then come back and recommend in price and do other things. Yeah. So to me, it feels like this is the next logical step for us at this point.
I'm on board. Let's do it.
Yeah, we need to do something.
I'll talk with this.
You're on board?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
All
Absolutely.
right. All right, you know our decision. Thank you, Mr. Lincoln. Let me know if you'll be in town or
Chris,
not.
thank you.
I'm sure you will be.
my travel schedule's changed.
All right, awesome. By the way, thank you all for all of your help throughout the years and all your many questions. As we've discussed this through different sets of board members since it's taken so long. Thank you. All right, number 15. Receive the attorney's report.
Don't have anything under 15 today. Y'all don't have any contested elections.
All right. 16, consider approval of utility development agreement.
So this is follow up on the discussion from last month when Dan Solkhorst from Power Houston made a presentation. If you weren't here, so the board deferred on taking action. There was a PowerPoint that was presented. I didn't get a chance to look at that. So Kelly, I think Kelly is here with Howard Hughes. Do y'all have that PowerPoint that you could get for Keith?
If it's on the Google Drive, yeah.
Yeah, we have.
This is the development of our.
Yeah, so this is up on the east side. Something here.
Just for the car dealership.
Our dealership and the future.
Yeah, okay.
So their development company wants to move forward with the development of the remaining property they have over there. And so they've asked for a reimbursement agreement similar to what we did with the defined area. This property is not in the defined area. There's not a reimbursement agreement in place for the property that is outside of the defined area. So we talked last month, the board talked last month about what the parameters would be to provide reimbursement to the developer. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I believe was landed on was that the debt service, the underlying debt service, set aside all the defined area stuff, could not exceed what your current debt service is, so 14.5 cents when you would go to issue bonds. And then they would need to complete the development of the track that's going to have the Sewell dealership and have that open for business. So at least, maybe not all the tracks are, developed and operating, but at least that one, the development's completed, is open for business. So you're going to get tax value from both the land and then, of course, the vehicles that are on the property.
Okay.
So,
And then the infrastructure that we've been putting in place is forward thinking, anticipating.
That's what I was about to, yeah, exactly. So we, SRA and WWA have been working with the engineers and our views on what that would look like. So there's a water line extension that's coming from the neighborhood, going out to and serving those tracks, including Sewell. But we don't want to just, problem is if you just look at what is necessary for Sewell, you might waste some effort in what is then needed for the others. So you kind of got to think of it as a whole. And so we've been working with the engineer on how that looks, both on the water side and then on the sanitary sewer side. And in this case, there's not enough depth on sanitary sewer with the available manhole that's kind of in the region to be able to do it with just gravity lines. So there will need to be a lift station that's built that gets the sewage from those tracks along the feeder over to the lift station and then through the system. The system was designed for it, but the depth of getting to the rest of the system and on the steam plant didn't have the depth at the high end, just west of the tracks. There's manhole sitting there. It's just not deep enough to get their flow to it. So the lift station would be necessary. So we've been working through some of the details on the design side with LJA and Howard Hughes. And that should put us in a good position to be able to serve the other pieces of this that aren't part of SEWE.
And the cost of that we discussed last time was roughly like 2.5
Call, and that sounds about right.
roughly.
yeah,
So obviously we can't write a check for that. So we would need to find a way to pay for that, and it's probably going to be done through some sort of a bond.
the developer would front the cost and then the district would issue bonds once at least that sewer track is developed.
Yes, I apologize for saying out of order, but yeah.
Yeah, so the district wouldn't be out of pocket any cash or reserves. It would just be
Right.
reimbursement to the developer with bond proceeds.
When would we do bonds?
That's going to depend on how quickly that first track gets developed and how your remaining value looks to see, how you can float that in with your existing debt service. Last month, Adam did talk about the structure of your remaining outstanding debt service and how you are going to have an opportunity to be able to layer this in
Yep.
without increasing your debt service tax.
Yeah, we
rate.
could tranche it in and amongst, we call it a cliff, but there's a give back, but then do we give it all back or do we just incrementally to then absorb?
Yeah, usually you're gonna want the above ground improvements to hit the tax rolls, which will create the tax revenue that you will utilize to help pay back those bonds that you're selling. So you'll want those above ground improvements to be
In place.
in place and
And we're talking a year, right? Or when, Ed, do you know? I mean, on the Sewell?
Well, that's a Kelly question.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm out.
I really do true
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Howard Hughes. The Sewell dealership is expected to open the summer of 27.
Okay, so we got a little more than a year till they open.
I think Dan indicated last month that their agreement suggested to Sewell that they would have facilities available by the end of this year.
End of the year.
So that they could,
That's right.
so they could be building those above ground agreements.
Yeah, so that would mean these would all show up if they're finished in 27, then they'll show up when you're certified as January 1 to 28. So we probably be issuing bonds early sometime in 28.
And so we'll come present options tax rate season time, because if you do have the shelf, there's a possibility if you shift those pennies over to maintenance and operations, set aside cash, you can offset the size
And not
of
go
issuance
big.
and sell a smaller bond issue, which would save the district on the interest component.
That's the hope. And then we can have a similar conversation on the ditch and
I think that
other items that come along.
Yeah, same thing.
would
Wonderful.
be a good time to bring that up, because you might want to go for that at that time, but that's something.
That's kind of my thoughts.
Well, we still need to
Put it
approve
together.
this and
Yeah.
approve this agreement that we're on the hook, that we see.
Yeah, let's do it.
But we want to keep, we tabled this till this month for you to be here, since this is a significant vote. So
So are we taking action today then, or? Okay.
I'm asking
We need to
why-
take action, Brian?
It's on the agenda for action if y'all want to take action. So
Unless you wanted to do some due diligence on reviewing things, I think we were prepared, but we just didn't want to do it without you. So,
No, I think it's good. You can do
I
it.
mean, I don't understand any reason or why we would vote no on this. I don't think there's any terms or conditions here that I'm reason balking at. Why would we be developing, tax revenue area that we want to at some point?
I mean, that's why the land is there.
Yeah,
Is to be
exactly.
developed. Our mud initial, our village initially was meant for commercial. And that's how we have lots of revenue to pay
Yeah,
down
we're-
our debt cliff and to ultimately service our homeowners.
Yeah, let's take advantage of the advantages that we have. So,
Absolutely. Okay.
do you want a motion?
Can I get a motion to approve the utility development agreement?
I would like to motion that we approve the utility development agreement for development of approximately 85 acres in Trade Center area.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thank you very much. Discuss and approve termination of financial advisory agreement between the district and Robert W. Baird and Company Incorporated and authorize execution of notice of termination. Sir?
I think y'all were going for the high score and termination notices in the packet. I get, everyone had to have one. I get it. I understand.
I can take 17 and 18. So our team of 16 at Baird have left Baird and gone independent. So, we were strictly municipal advisory. Our group is specifically municipal advisory to special districts across Texas. That is what we will still maintain. But over the years, and we've been with Baird for 11 and a half years, which have been great years. But Baird has become a rather large purchaser of muni debt in Texas. And if you recall, with Dodd-Frank in 2010, there was a separation of advisory versus the buy-sell side.
Yep.
And so we've come to the conclusion that it would be more advantageous to the districts we represent to have Baird as a potential purchaser of the debt. And so that is the reason for the separation. If you look at page 66, there's a memo signed by myself as well as my three partners and then our former head of public finance for Baird. It is an amicable separation. Really, the only things that would change in the contract, the name, obviously, of course, Cedar Creek Municipal Advisors is what we're going by. But it's Exhibit 2. I can hand this over.
On our packet.
No, it's,
That's it.
so the structure is the same as it's been since, I think, maybe the 80s, Brian? So that structure, so if you look what's in the packet, what's in the packet was our kind of boilerplate contract, and that's for standalone districts. If you look at page 98, that is really kind of the going rate for standalone special districts. But, you know, when we left RBC 11 and a half years ago, we kept the contract the same. Our intent is to keep the contract the same again. You know, there's no reason to change it. You potentially will sell bonds, a small bond issue in the future. So, you know, we would like to keep that the same. The other change would be we're asking for a service fee of $5,000, which would cover the cost for meetings, the tax rate discussions, the budget discussions, the exemption discussions, all that analytics. Historically, we have not charged. We've had the ability to charge, we just haven't. That wasn't really built for that. And so, yeah, in the packet, it says $10,000.
Yeah, that's what we gotta follow.
But in discussions internally, because a lot of times when we meet with staff, it's not on one district, it's on multiple districts.
Sure.
We cut that in half because ideally we'll be coming up here having the discussion on all 10 districts, not just one individually at a time, unless there's something specific. In this case, for your district, it may be because of the defined area, because you have the other development going on. But regardless, a flat fee is easier for us on our side rather than trying to bill you hourly. So, you know, that equates to about 14 hours a year. We won't ever charge an additional fee if it's over the 14 hours. It's just a way to recoup some of the overhead costs.
Sure.
Is this the new agreement or?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is the same as the structuring is the same as it was on the Bayard side.
Can I ask a general manager? I mean,
You're allowed to ask whatever you want.
yeah, no, I'm just saying, just in general, is there anything that, as our advocates here and understanding this, that when we say that, you're not saying I'm not taking you at your word, that this is a standard agreement, this is standard terms, this is no really different than anything before. Is this, I mean,
Correct.
is it, okay,
It is.
so,
Yeah, and there's been, I've seen great benefit in having them, the financial advisor for all the districts. It makes it more efficient and consistent. So it's been a good relationship since I've been here.
so in essence, is this just decoupling for conflict, you know, contention and just continuing the status quo just under different banner?
Yeah, our same team. So you would have no change in myself or David Wood has been to your meetings before.
Okay.
There'd be no change. Our whole team has stayed intact.
And the gist of my question was that there's not something buried in here that's being slipped in that says, okay, we're
We're looking at their form on behalf of all of our district clients, because this is going on not just in the Wood
Yes.
but obviously, other mutual clients that we have that Adam and his group represent. And so we have provided them, comments, that have been incorporated.
so
For
red
instance,
line
on here, so what is in your packet is what was originally
may not reflect the
a
current state.
template, correct, not specific for your district. So for your district, main changes, as Adam mentioned, the fee structure wasn't with the template, it was to your old agreement. The annual fee that is new, that wasn't in the old contract, was reduced from the template amount from 10 to 5. And then they had a series of termination provisions that, you would owe a certain termination fee. Those were removed for your contract. So
Okay.
it's the typical what it was before, which is all your consultants can be terminated in 30 days, no calls. And there's not,
Is it mutual? Can they terminate us?
Yes.
Okay, just make sure. That's usually where you want to go. So. Hey, Okay, so there's no hidden gotchas here or anything and. Okay. And we have any questions? I mean, I'm not opposed to the $5,000
I'm not either.
basically stipend to offset some.
Per mud. That's 5,000 per mud.
I mean, basically, when he says 14 hours, it's plus or minus the monthly meetings a little bit. It's not even going to cover all of that time and transit and stuff. So Seems pretty nominal. Sean's gonna do the math.
It's $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like $3.50 an hour. It's fine. We're here. It's $2.21 an hour.
Cool.
Expertise costs money.
And again, this is on the debt that we have.
That would only be if you issue debt. If not, otherwise we don't collect anything. Everything besides the $5,000 is contingent upon closing and funding of bonds. So
Facilitating actual
Yeah. if you were-
Of new debt.
debt
if you were
vehicles.
to never sell bonds again, then we would never receive any of those funds.
So the only thing, unless we issue debt, is the $5,000 a year that each one pays.
And
Right.
still, still have a fiduciary obligation to the district. So,
It's great.
in any effort to reduce the size of the issuance, we're going to go ahead and do that.
And these percentages are status quo, or I mean, the fee percentages of the,
To what you had in your previous.
that's what I'm asking. Yeah, forget the template. I'm just saying what we had before in place. So
You have no concerns on anything?
Not after they incorporated the comments.
the red lines.
So your action would be motion to terminate the Baird contract and
Then
next motion to approve.
Every MUD has to do this, correct?
What if they don't?
and we have to fund our own at MUD 39.
No, man, I'm just curious. I mean, there's some that,
So, and I guess I should also say Baird has acknowledged that us leaving, won't allow them to service any clients.
okay,
So at some point, you'll have to find another financial advisor. They're asking to be terminated because if they resign, there's an effective cooling off period that could or could not be enforced, which would preclude them from future bidding of deals. So they're asking to be terminated.
I'm on board with this. I'm not allowed to go find other financial advisors.
Yeah,
So
I think
I'm on board for this.
I just wanted to ask, clarify one thing. I think maybe this is where Sean was going when he talks about other MUDs. So is this agreement as it's structured contingent on all 10 of us agreeing?
No.
Okay, so suddenly if a persnickety other MUD decides that, no, we're going to be curmudgeons and not do this, then we all have to revisit ours that we're basically, okay, gotcha.
And individual agreements. So
I just want to make sure that there wasn't some wink, wink. That's why we went from 10 grand to 5, because we're getting economies of scale here that suddenly evaporates if half the MUDs walk
Right.
away. Yeah, so, okay.
Can I get a motion to, a motion to terminate the agreement with Baird? Then maybe more specific.
I would like to move that we terminate our financial advisory agreement between the district and Baird.
I'll second the agreement.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Approval and execution of financial advisory agreement with Cedar Creek Municipal Advisors.
I'd like to move that we approve and execute a financial advisory agreement with Cedar Creek Municipal Advisors.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right.
Thank you very much.
19, discuss and or act on out-of-district water wastewater service agreement, detention pond maintenance agreement with Montgomery County Precinct 2.
Nothing there. That's still just a holding item. Those facilities are in the process of being constructed. So we'll circle around to that as those projects get closer to completion.
And just to touch on this, because I've had other people in other MUDs and other government officials ask me, out of district water, like the defined areas that sewage would flow to the next available plant, wherever it may be located at.
Right. So the reason we wouldn't annex it is just it doesn't add taxable value.
Yeah.
So there's no real point in going through that exercise of getting consent and going through the annexation process. You can just serve it on an out of district basis through a separate contract.
Cool. And doing the the other pieces of the property as well as the Sewell. I mean, obviously that's the reason why we go through the SFDUEs and make sure we are paid for those before those properties are built to make sure that we can grab them while they're still available. Awesome. Thank you, sir. Do we need to act on anything?
Not on 19.
All right. 20, receive and or act on the engineer's report.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I gave you all copies of the engineer report. If you don't have one, let me know. Going through our items here, we have a few of them that are shown out here for design and advertising for bids in that section. I'm just going to go down the list here for item number 1, the Woodlands Village of Sterling Ridge, west of FM 2978, the sanitary lift station. That design's getting wrapped up here pretty soon, and hopefully in the next month or so, we'll be able to start advertising for bid on this project. Item number 2 is the utilities that we just discussed earlier for Trade Center, the water, sanitary, and the drainage to serve sections 14, 15, and parcel T2A. We did advertise for bid on March 3rd and the 10th, and we did have bid openings this past month, March 20th. We had a low bidder was Texas Site with a total amount bid of $1,253,169.52, with a second low bidder being Principal Services LTD with a total amount of $1,337,163.62. For this, the action item, we would want to concur an award of construction to Texas Site in the amount just mentioned of $1.2 million. And then I'll just go through the rest of these. There, as was mentioned, there is going to be as Eric brought up, there is a lift station that's going to be bid as a separate project, but it will still serve the Trade Center. It's going to be, we should be having that also going out for advertisement, hopefully next month, and that'll be on the agenda. Just as a progress. Yes, sir.
Did you say Trade Center that's different than the lift station at 2978?
That's correct. Those two separate lift stations. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Was there any big difference between what Texas Site and the number 2 bidder did for?
Oh, in terms of just competitive pricing. Yeah, nothing special or anything that was off. It was just their pricings came out a lot cheaper.
Have you worked with both contractors before?
We have worked with Texas Site before, and they have a good reputation. And Principal Services as well, so either one would work. And then finally, for status of construction, the Woodlands Village of Sterling Ridge, west of FM 2978, the detention ponds. We have, that project has started construction as of last Wednesday, April 8th. Their contract time is 80 days, so they have started. Hopefully in the next meeting we'll give you better progress, but so far they're moving dirt out there and making good progress.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions? All right. 21, receive.
Do have action to concur in the developer's award of that one contract under 20A2.
20A.
Need a motion.
20A2. Can I get a motion on 20A2, please?
I make a motion that we concur in the award of the construction contract to Texas Site
Can I get a second?
specified.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Thank you very much. '21, receive developers report and authorize any action necessary in connection therewith. Two, receive and or act on the general manager's report.
All right, general manager's report starts on page 99. You can see we've been pretty active, not so much in 39, but pretty active around the Woodlands, addressing a lot of the ditches, y'all's ditches. Other than that one area, a couple areas of the big ditch are pretty good shape. The one of the areas is still on our list to do, the small, not the same project, but kind of around the corner. Is still going to be addressed, but making a lot of progress on all the ditch work throughout the muds. Our ditch crew is full bore rolling, doing their work as well, doing minor siltation and clearing cutbacks, stuff like that. So things are going very well with the new crew. Want to point out, we went through about 1,600 work orders this last month. Throughout the woodlands, significant work. That's not unusual, but just haven't pointed that out in a while, so just wanted to point that out. Also, you'll find in our report that Maureen has been with Woodlands Water for 28 years. So her anniversary in March.
Congrats.
Good year.
Also, put in here some customer thank yous. I always like to put those in when we find them. We get them all the time, but I like to share those. And with that, I'll throw it to John for communications update.
Afternoon, you have a communications report starting at page 111. Turn to page 112. You'll find our results for our 2026 annual community survey. I want to spend a little time there. So these are highlights. We asked 26 questions total. I just brought forward about 11 of those to give you a sense of things here. I encourage you to check out the full report. You can do that by scanning that QR code on the bottom right. All the questions are there with analysis as well. So not only are we showing knowledge and opinion ratings for 2026, but also bringing forward stats from the last 4 surveys. So we started doing annual surveys in 2022, right when we implemented the strategic plan. You will note that not all 4 years are represented with each question. That's because we've adjusted some questioning over time. So if there isn't an apples to apples year to year, we do not include that in the trend. But I think it is important to look at how we're trending over time as well as where we are right now. And then one other background note, we adjusted our methodology this year to be more inclusive of the of folks that are not our normal communication stream. So I think we have a much more representative sample of the community, not just folks that are hearing from us more regularly. In doing so, we anticipated that we would see a dampening of results, that we would see lower levels on both opinion and favorability, because those are folks who are just not reaching on that regular basis. I don't think that happened. We saw upticks across the board on knowledge and favorability, both. And so that doubly encouraging there with the results we have this year. Still some work to do, and I'll touch on those items as well as the good stuff. Let's start with the good stuff. How familiar are you with Woodlands Water Agency? We're up 31% over 4 years. What's your opinion of Woodlands Water Agency? We're up 44% since 2022. And MUD's up even more, up 64% in that 4-year span. And those unfavorable ratings quite low and dropping over that same time period. Where does your drinking water come from? That's up almost 50% since 2022. So 62% of the folks know that we have a blended supply. How satisfied are you with the following? So these are folks that said they were either very satisfied or satisfied with customer service. That came in at 86%. Those saying that they were satisfied or very satisfied with value for their services received 78%. And for our efforts to keep them informed, 81.4%. And again, all those trending upward over time.
John, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
So, and maybe it's here and I'm not seeing it. Percentage of survey respondents. So I want to, when we talk about things are up over the last 4 years compared. So if we only had 10% of available respondents responding 4 years ago, but we suddenly have 50% of the people that we send, that, people that are participating. If the ratio goes up higher, these numbers are even more impactful. But the inverse is true too. If we have less participation, but it just happens to be more positive and less negative. I'm just trying to say, numbers and data you can slice them however you want. So I assume we're getting more and more participation. It's not less.
We were actually pretty level with what we've done in the
Okay.
past as far as the survey respondents.
I just want to baseline that.
840 respondents this year. 2022, I think we were 930. 2023, we were right around 850. So pretty level.
Okay.
With what we've done.
No judgment, just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
for the record and everyone's understanding.
Sure.
that-
Were the respondents, you said 840 this year? Were they segregated by mud, or is that just everybody in the Woodland water system?
We sent it out to all, so it's we distribute it through 2 different email lists.
Okay.
Through social media, and then we put a link on the water bill as well. So.
But you don't, of the 840, you don't know how many came from 46 or 39 or?
We haven't sussed that data out yet, and we get at that. But the fact that, especially distributing through those different mechanisms, most especially the water bill, we expect that we reach the full spectrum of customers.
Interesting seeing that affordability went down.
I'm sorry.
Affordability went down as a concern. It dropped and it's.
Oh, and that bottom one
Yeah,
there,
yeah. I mean, it's an interesting.
there were several renewal related questions. I give you one here. There are others that I encourage you to look at through that QR. So let me touch on that. So cost of water and wastewater services. So we're looking at the bottom question here. When planning for the maintenance and renewal of water and wastewater infrastructure, how important are the following factors? So this question was asked in 24 and then again this year. And you can see those rankings there. Cost came in at number 5. Most of those priorities track well from over between those 2 surveys. I want to note something. So cost came in at 5. There were 8 total. The reason you see 9 there, that is a transcription error. So that was corrected on the report you'll see online, but here, just scratch that out, affordable. Just scratch that out. It's basically a typo. So cost was only offered as one of the
choices.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So number 5 out of 8 is how you should read that. I also want to note, I said there's some other opportunities for improvement here. We do see a need to keep educating the public on how our water system works, on the respective roles and services of the partner agencies. 37% of folks were not aware that SGRA is our wholesale water provider. So,
but these all seem positive. I mean, your messaging, I mean, a lot of this says we're getting traction.
I think it's a good report. And the fact that we're seeing things across the board trending in the right direction, that's the most encouraging thing. Do we have more work to do? Absolutely. Another area where we certainly have work to do is that second to the last question there, how aware are you of current and planned water and wastewater infrastructure renewal efforts? Folks that said they were very or somewhat aware, 35%. Folks that were not aware at all, 36%. So we need to get that up. Now that, and I will say that that's evidence of that we did a good job of reaching folks that are not in our normal communication stream, because we do a lot of infrastructure renewal communication. It's been in heavy rotation since we began this campaign a couple years ago.
Right. Yeah. Community impact, the other thing, the article.
All of it. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, yeah, scan that QR, and if you have questions, as you look at the full survey analysis, please, let me know. Happy to answer you. Thank you.
Um, 23, receive Woodlands Water Trustees Report.
I don't have anything further to add, other than I know most of y'all watch the videos and see it, but you have the report attached.
24, recess.
Not necessary.
All right, reconvene. Any other matters? Well, I'd like to add that ever since I moved to the Greenbelt, I have the lovely ability to see people driving ATVs and
Welcome to the ATV
motorbikes.
Modern Club, right? You know.
So I have some very clear pictures of those people.
Many,
You can keep both.
a number of the sign, well, I'm out there every day. My wife is out there extensively every day
With the
walking it.
dogs.
And a lot of the signs and efforts and things that we put up have been dismantled, removed. Not a lot, I mean, some of them, not a lot of them, but some have been removed, circumvented, definitely ignored.
Yeah, it was a large black four-seater ATV vehicle that gets driven around a lot.
And we know firsthand now that the ATV park that's in Forest Hills, that they, it's a pay to play. You can go park there, ride your ATVs, and they've used that property now to cut through to the green belt. So they profit off of people coming to their park, and then they
Overflowing into our.
and then now they've cut trails through, and by and large, most of them come out in that back corner and they head straight to the San Jacinto River. So they're not all of them are on the mud, but a lot of them are cut through and go out to the San Jacinto River.
Is there a way to stop the track they cut or the path?
I think you have to look at where they cut that path, because I think it's just right outside of the property line, but I'm not a surveyor.
Yeah, from what Keith and I were looking at, it doesn't look like that particular path is on any mud property.
I agree.
I don't know where the boundaries of the ATV park start and stop. So they could be crossing someone else's property, which I don't even know if that property owner, if it's not them, even knows that that's happened. If it is, they may not like that. So we've been in touch with the sheriff's department, and we're trying to set up a meeting to just walk them through what you're all experiencing. Yes, and our signs and everything else, just so that we can get a little bit better coverage and try to figure out a plan, because a lot of where they're going is not along a street. And so we would need to figure out how to get further presence, but presence on the streets isn't necessarily gonna,
Yeah, if they're coming in through a back door, that's.
they're back in the woods and then get onto our property, that's one thing, but they might not be going through our streets to get that. So we're gonna need to figure out how to get more police coverage actually on the ditch, which there is obviously legal access that we can provide. So we just need to work that out with them.
Booby traps? No.
They've made their own,
Criminal.
they've made their own in a couple areas.
Brian's like, no.
That's criminal.
All right.
I think at some point, we might consider that we're gonna have, if depending on what the sheriff's department is willing to do voluntarily or as part of our taxes already. But I know that years and years ago, that the MUD had hired or it was paying for the sheriffs, and they would ride out there on four-wheelers and stop everybody.
Monitoring.
But
They have that capability. That's part of the discussion that we need to have, is what's the best way for them to increase presence?
It'd be wonderful, and they just take a lap.
you prefer a meeting date set, or it's still?
Yeah.
Okay.
I suspect, it's a handful of people that think this is their God-given right to go do what they're doing. And if we could neuter that, or if they're, amazing what a ticket would do to then suddenly that go report to your mom and dad that you.
Honestly, it's more than a handful. And it's not just the Harper's Landing, it's the Glen Eagle, and it's the ATV park. So
which we have.
you have three different sources of people coming onto there, but it's more than a handful. You see different people all the time.
Understood.
Yeah.
I fully support. Let's have a conversation and see what next steps are and what they recommend.
Also, somebody had posted pictures of a bunch of piglets that, so the hogs are breeding out there. It's that breeding season. There is some rutting, and I know that damages the vegetation, and I think that could cause erosion, and there's also a safety concern, but there's definitely some bigger sows and some piglets that are out there roaming our green belt.
Wait 3 months, there'll be 40 more.
Yeah. So.
All right. Any other business?
No.
Ladies.
All right. Adjournment, 12:09.
Thank you.